And we'll just
Yeah,
we'll figure it out. My intention had been to possibly do a stream where I was just like heckin'. You got Cassadrian questions about the book, about the way things work, about synergies. You want to talk about it? I put it, half the screen is the book. I don't know if anyone out there has shown up yet, but half the screen is the book. But then I was like, I don't know if that warrants an entire stream at this time. But
who knows?
Here we are.
if people got questions.
Yep. Anyone out there? If y'all got questions, then please send them in. Hello. By the way, people at home, if there's anybody that was waiting, as sometimes people do, you're here with us. I know that I don't show my face a lot in the channel, but hey, it's me. Logan.
It's him.
And Emerald and Eric are here.
Yeah.
Oh, there's people. How you guys doing? I'm gonna turn on my thing so I can keep track of stuff. There's no major... The fuck is that? There's an app on my phone that I don't recognize.
The more the merrier.
Oh, thank you for the sub.
Don't click it. You'll go into another fucking world or some shit.
Oh no!
Oh no.
I should move that. That is like right in my face.
The more the merrier.
That's me now. This is a mask. We are anonymous. We are Summergrass. Let's see.
The more the merrier.
Alright, well I'm gonna find that and move
Oh
that.
damn! Gigaflex.
Gigaflex, you burning some points, friend? You burn those points, friend. Where are you? Where's the alert box? There it is. Let's make you substantially smaller. And over there. There you go. Oh heck!
Oh
Thanks
my
for the 5 gift
gosh.
subs.
Oh my gosh!
Hell
Thank you for the gift sub.
Yeah. Oh, are you a sub now, Eric?
Yeah, they gave me a sub.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's great. Ah, goodness. Oh, I wish I had fox ears to wear. You're right. I should have had a little fox getup, but like one that looked like I really half-assed it. Like it is fox ears, but it's like the most lazy fox ears possible. And I should have just like popped in,
cardboard, like colored with crayon.
Yeah,
like...
it should have popped in and be like, "Hey everyone, it's magical, fucking fox person time. Welcome. I'm your guide to this magical realm." All right, let's get started. Aww. I figured that the Closet Gremlin, I figured the Bestiary would probably be one of the parts that would get the most use, because there's a lot of stuff in there you don't even need Cassadrian or Somnus Domina stuff for. Apart from people that want to use the actual race, obviously. You see me flicking my head around a lot? It's because I have 2 screens. Big, like, large screens that are very separate from each other, so when I'm like, chat, actual screen things are on. Chat, actual screen, webcam. So fucking I sometimes watch myself back on streams and I'm like, man, I look like I'm looking around like a madman, like I'm twitchy, and I'm like, no, it's just PDF over there, Streamlabs, my eye line to the chat is there, and then if I want to talk to people directly, I gotta talk to you guys, but then I can't see the chat while I'm doing that. I'm thinking about getting a 3rd monitor and just having it be a little tiny monitor up above the webcam and just being like, chat there. But
You know what you should do? You should totally get a monitor and just get one of them that can turn to the side. So it's just a horizontal monitor for chat box.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I can, a skirmisher? A slight skirmisher, vigilante, devil. Yes, those synergize incredibly well. We actually have said some internal talks about that particular combo. Hayden and I have it. I mean, it's my gift to the world. I get to make all these things. I get to throw them out there. And then I never get to use them. There's just I literally do not have enough time in my life to play all of the stuff I make.
Yeah, even if you get to do a few, you're never gonna get to do them all.
Can you ask Vestige questions? I can only answer, things that I'm capable at the current time in Vestige of answering. But yeah, ask away. Oh, you already ran a one-shot using all that much material from it? That's so cool! I'd like to, now that I'm getting more into this and I'm releasing books that talk more about Somnus Domina, and the other things that are in it, political bodies, organizations, places, whatnot, I would like to start writing short little adventures, things that are like one-shots or like, 4-session runs. I'm putting them out largely because I'd also like to start sharpening my skills regarding writing adventures for people that aren't me. Because, rules as intended does a lot of the heavy lifting when you're writing your own stuff. Who's the Bat King? Well, you've answered your own question. How does Moonbeam work on Cassadria's shapeshifting? Well, based on what I remember the text to be, Moonbeam only has a special effect on shapeshifters, and a Cassadria is not a shapeshifter by creature type. Just because they can shapeshift does not mean that they're a shapeshifter.
Doesn't have the right tag.
Yeah. Because shapeshifters as a creature type are often represented as creatures that don't really have a set physical form. Like, many do, but oftentimes they're things that they become whatever they want to at whatever time. They spend more time in other forms than they do in whatever their base form is. Like a changeling, the idea is that they don't have a set, like, whatever they are. Or if they do, they don't like to use it. A shape changer makes the saving throw a disadvantage. So yeah, it wouldn't have any effect. Their ability to turn into a fox is as much a shape-shifting thing as an Asimar's ability to create wings. Though it is a physical change, it is not a full shape-shift in that regard. Are you sad the team didn't release Mother Tyr's soul? Not really. She would have actually been quite upset. Is it messed up that Lucy pretty much deleted 3 Cassadrian subraces? Well, that's up to personal interpretation. In-universe, there's contention, as the book talks about. The important thing to note there, for optics, is Lucy didn't kill anybody. They made it so that no more of those kinds could be born, but the same souls, the same individuals are still being born. They're just not that subrace. They're a different subrace. But it really depends on how much you put value on their ability to be born, and they didn't take it away from those that existed. And there are maybe reasons why they did that aren't in the book. But it's not like they genocided certain subraces of Cassadria. They just made it be like, okay, these progenitors are gone. Those that came after them cannot be born with those traits. They will be born with other traits. So it's really up to you. It's one of those things that in universe people could definitely find issues with it. Those that existed and were of those subraces, they would obviously, probably not take that well, because it's a strange thing to do for a god. But out of universe, it doesn't, after enough time went on, it's not like it caused any disparity. There was no culling. So what fight you pick is sort of, I guess it's sort of depends on the individual and what their values are. It's not like there's not a lot of diversity in Cassadria. Rory and the Bat King host a podcast together. Can I confirm if this is true or not?
to give away that kind of spoiler, Logan.
Don't let your dreams be dreams. If you run a game in Somnus Domina, and you tell me that in your world there are podcasts, which, tell me how that works out, and that a certain guard from Summergrass and a certain Fey Bat Lord have decided to get together to talk about the overlaps in their experiences, I'm not here to stop you. I'm not here to tell you that's not true. Make your dreams realities, friends. By the way, Hayden's at a con right now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a part of me that wants to be like, if you're at that con, you should go see Hayden, but I'm also like, if you're in this chat, there's no way you're attending that con. So, again, will Hayden be there tomorrow? Presumably,
I
right?
Assume, because con weekends.
But... What con is it?
Shoot.
I just liked their tweet on it.
Hayden.
They are at Anime Pasadena.
Okay, Anime Pasadena. If any of you are in that area and you want to later today or tomorrow look to see if Hayden Davio is still doing signings, hosting stuff, whatever, doing panels, you should check that out. And if that's inspiration to go meet Hayden, go do it. This is me being like, this is probably not useful information at this point, though. But now you can't get a Cassadrian Pedal Knight out of your head. Well, good.
Good.
I like that all those things are in your head.
Make it.
Do it.
Have fun.
Brain rot about my content. This does nothing but good things for me.
Brain rot all the time.
Let's see. Oh, Dueler. You bought the book because you forgot you got it through Patreon. Oh man, I'm sorry. I sent out the email quite a bit in advance before I made any major announcements, so I apologize if maybe that got lost or got into your spam or anything. Giving you so many character and NPC ideas. You know, ultimately, like, that's the idea. A lot of people, like, you can release a lot of setting guides and whatnot, like Critical Role's released all the Exandria stuff, is like insanely popular, but I find most times people will take things and they will... No one ever really, in my experience, plays a setting as the setting. Like, people tend to use setting guides as things to steal from. So, though I'm trying to give people definitive, like, elements at this point to imagine playing in Somnus Domina, there are wild things people have no way of knowing and I won't be able to release publicly for years, so like there's certain inaccuracies that will naturally occur based on that. But my main intention with these books is just to give people things that, like, here's a way you could run things, and if you wanted to run something that you call Somnus Domina, here's a framework that you can use and probably change for your own stuff. Logan, why do you love critical abilities so much? I don't really love them any more than anything else. But rewarding crits is fun, and D&d doesn't do it a lot. What, was there an accidental, like, inundation of critical abilities in, like, the sub-classes I put out, or what? Also, it was a rogue and whatnot based kind of book, so... Like... You know... One of the big things about rogues is when they get really high up, like when they get to, well, 20th level, really, they can just choose to crit.
Oh, hell yeah.
Did you, were you unaware of that?
I don't know if I looked at that one specifically.
I'm gonna get the exact text for you, just because it's one of my favorite abilities. As far as I don't remember if it's level 17 or if it's level 20, but I'm gonna look it up. Rogue 5e... D&d Beyond. Oh. There's 3 classes of crit abilities. Well, I mean, that's not that much. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's level 20, Stroke of Luck. They have an uncanny knack for succeeding when they need to. If your attack misses a target within range, you can turn it into a hit. Alternatively, if you fail to... wait, hold on. Oh, that's not the right one. What am I thinking of? What am I thinking of?
Reliable talent?
No. That has nothing to do with crits. That's
You're right.
Stuff is 10s. Where the fuck are you? Is it one of the sub races? It's not Assassin. Assassin, I mean, does have a bunch of crit abilities, but what am I thinking of? They have something. I know they do. Is it a 1D&D thing? No. No, it's not. Nothing I do is based on 1D&D. Nothing. Ever.
Besides, they can't crit. In 1D.
Yeah, then it would be irrelevant.
Yeah, they can. They walk that back.
Oh, they did for the rogues?
For everyone.
Oh, cool.
What do you mean by they can't crit? They still, I believe, can't add their sneak attack damage. But
Yeah, that's basically...
only Stroke of Luck? Have I been in my mind misremembering Stroke of Luck for literally my entire career working on D&D stuff?
I guess so.
Oh, man. That's even worse. I was going to say they can only use it once per short or long rest, so it's kind of a whatever 20th level ability, but they can't even... What am I sipping on? It's fucking... What do you think it is? You know what it is. You know what it is?
G Fuel, obviously.
You know what it
Ask
is?
questions to
It's
which you already
whiskey.
know the
I'm
answers.
hard down. I'm doing this with whiskey. It's definitely not Red Bull, because then I'd be weak.
You're right.
Then I'd be weak.
Only then.
Huh. Weird. I could have sworn. I seriously could have sworn the rogue has level 20 ability. Let it just choose to crit. I do not know what I'm thinking of now. I mean, it doesn't change anything, but... maybe I'm thinking of... I'm not thinking of Death Strike.
You're not thinking of like a 3.5 ability, right?
No, I am definitely thinking of 5e. I'm not mistaking my addition. I'm just wrong. Yeah, it's the 20 on ability checks. Maybe at some point a long time ago, maybe I read that and internalized it as... I saw can choose to treat it like a 20, and I was like, on attacks? And didn't read the actual. This is one of those things where you gotta turn on me. Heckin', it does what it says it does. Heckin'. Isn't that a subclass ability? Yeah, just to walk that back, because you posted that a bit ago. I'm not thinking of, like, the assassin's ability to auto-crit on and whatnot. I'm definitely thinking of what I thought was a level 20 ability that the rogues just have. Is Aristo still alive? I mean, last time we saw him, he was. Probably won't see him again if he's not.
The more the merrier.
Oh, what's, got a big old message on that one. Where's my phone? What you saying? Love the preview for the book, waiting for the hardcover. After my teenage Sword Saint Dragon Turtle finishes Strahd, I want to make some sort of Kidz. I love that. That is a great bit of text. Also, it just makes me want to go Teenage Sword Saint Dragon Turtle. Teenage Sword Saint Dragon Turtles.
Oh my goodness.
That's great. Rules as written, a Foxfire pack, the teleport and attack thing doesn't specify melee attacks. I think the ability to teleport to 3 plus proficiency different places within 60 feet is insanely powerful for a sniper. And I mean, you're burning a limited resource, so it's not like you're busting the system. Where are you? Let's go to them. I'm very happy. Veloci was definitely not a fighter, but I'm very happy I got to use Veloci's art in the book.
Yeah.
Where are you? Yeah, we're talking this boy right here. So where are we?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks to Sid for the art that's included in this one. Sid only got to do a few of the bits of art for class things. They did a few of the background elements, they did the flowers and whatnot for the Petal Knights, and they did the Nojistune's phylactery image. But I always like theirs. Sid's art is always so warm. Let's see. Yeah, you're right.
One of the first things I imagined when I saw that Foxfire pack rogue was just fucking someone picking the devil, the devil scratch one.
Yeah.
And then turning into a big old demon fox.
And then having a pack of foxes with you? Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the cool changes, you just made me think of it, one of the changes I made to this to give people a bit more encouragement to use the shapeshifting, and I don't know if anyone within Nat19 who's read the book noticed that I did so, is heckin' before, when you became a fox, you couldn't wield weapons and whatnot. I made sure to... That's been changed. You can use lighter finesse weapons by holding them in your fox mouth. So you can...
Be a little fox rogue.
Yeah, you can be a really tiny heckin' Sith from Dark Souls. Oh, my chat just disappeared. Chat, don't do that. Refresh. Sorry, chat, that I'm leaning in on ya. Heckin'. Cassadrian Rhyme Knife's very happy with this change. Yeah, I thought it'd be cool just, you know, have them have a dagger or a short sword in their little fox mouth, if you want to do that. Let's see. You love all the scandal art we got in the book. Dueler, you're a man of culture. So do I. A lot of it was already done. I just hadn't released it. Like, for example, this image, it was made for a totally different thing that will come out later, but it served as a really good introductory image, because Scandal and Lexi are like most prolific Cassadrian. That one was already done. That one was already done. That was just like a personal commission that I decided to apply to this. Heckin', where are you? Fun fact. On this image, the artist and I had to go back and forth so much on such small things. Like Donpour and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, specifically the positioning of Scandal's legs. Like, we spent more time... I spent more time giving notes on whether or not I wanted her to be like, cross-legged or have her leg like stretched out all playfully. It was like that image in particular, I think, had the most revisions of any image in the book. Heckin'. Can foxes hold revolvers in their teeth? I don't recall if I wrote melee. If I didn't write melee, I would ask how they're gonna pull the trigger, and leave that up to you to decide. Yeah, melee weapons. Okay, I'm very glad I thought of that. Cool. Good job, me! There's so many things that people point out to me, and they're like, does this apply? And I'm like, I'm gonna need to confer with past me, because I don't remember all the words I put into the book. But, yo, past me was on it. Melee weapons. Mage hand. The mage fox becomes tiny, has a revolver just in their mouth, and they're using mage hand to pull the trigger. That's the idea. So, rules as written. No. But if someone decided to do that as a stupid thing, I would at least humor the idea, depending on what they're trying to do exactly. Logan, what gave you the idea to do what you did with the Somnus to Pantheon? I guess you'd have to be more specific in that regard. One thing that that made me do it the way I did it, in regards to having so there are more gods than the Eidolons, first of all. Just putting that before everything I'm about to say. But the decision to focus on 12 gods was one of the main things in this setting. And that was because I love D&D lore to bits. I adore it. But if you're new to it, or someone who has a casual relationship with it, the sheer number of gods that all have like 1 or 2 domains is staggering, and it can sometimes be hard to sort through them, to know their relationships, to know what they do, to know exactly what rituals come with all of them, what their relationships are, what you should think of servants of other gods. One of the reasons why Somnus Domina focuses on 12 that have each a wide variety of domains is largely because it's a bit more intro friendly to look at effectively 12 zodiac points and know what they're about than the 50 or so major players in Forgotten Realms lore who each are like, yeah, no, this god is the god of heckin' stabbing people in the back on Tuesday. Like,
there's a different god for every day of the week.
And a lot of things that emerged kind of just emerged as a result of that. One fun aspect of them was just I used a framing device in their early construction, which, even though it doesn't matter much to how they are now, was the zodiacs. They don't really bear any resemblance to zodiac signs, but they originally were sort of guided by zodiac signs. You craving more lore about the Eidolons? Oh, it goes way deeper. I have intentionally, including with the players, I very much have softballed things about them. Because sorry, Eric and Emerald, that I'm dominating so much. I mean,
no,
you know why, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But what was I about to say? I intentionally softballed the players, because a lot of our players aren't really used to the Forgotten Realms, or they weren't when we started. So I intentionally gave them the vaguest general information to exist in the world, and I still do that with new people. But this is one of those, it's a very Fate kind of thing, a Type Moon kind of thing, where I'm Marine telling Shiro what he needs to know to be in a Grail War, which is heroes summon, they fight, they die, we wish. But there's so much more that goes into it. It goes a lot deeper than that, and these books are a way for me to go into it without making it the player's problem. Because a lot of lore and whatnot, I think a lot of DMs that make their own settings try to make the deep lore their player's problem. Like, the setting becomes about its lore. And I don't believe that. I believe that no matter how deep it runs, your world is your stage. And the story that happens within it has to be emotionally and personally driven. So, I'm not trying to exhaust my lore. I'm not trying to use the game as a way to be like, hey, people at home, check out this cool thing that I made. So these books are how I do that, so that I don't have to subject my players to it. Otherwise, it's just going to all stay up here. Who does Fenris's hammer come from? Fenris's hammer, if I recall, is Marius's Constelliquary. I think we've mentioned that in game. I think so. I'm done when it comes to the rules of D&D. What does it mean with Devil Scratch and the thing about Action Surge? What do you specifically?
Talk about how the bite attack can be used with features like that?
Does it mention? Yeah, so I have a bite attack as soon as a melee weapon and can benefit from features like extra attack. That means that just means that you can use it multiple times. Because some features are like, you can use your action to make a bite attack. And in that case, you're not taking the attack action, you're using your action to bite. Like NPC stat blocks, for example, do that. You're not... Like, multi-attack isn't a guide for how you're doing things. You are taking the NPC is taking the multi-attack action, which describes what it does. In this case, this is just pointing out that the bite attack can be made as if you have extra attack, it can be any number of your attacks you make can be the bite attack. Heckin' what sub-race is Lexi going to be? Sorry if I miss questions, by the way. I'm trying to... Normally Aaron sort of keeps track of the questions whenever we're doing these things, but he's doing his own thing today. Just scrolling back a little bit to make sure I don't miss out on anything. In regards to the Pantheon question, my throat is not agreeing with me today. In regards to the Pantheon question, if you want to specify what you mean by what I did with it, if I didn't kind of cover it, then please elaborate, and I can answer more specifically. Regarding the Lexi question, Lexi is a Deepwood Cassadrian, and after Honokuni, provided there's an after Honokuni, we'll be switching Lexi over to the new statistics. Can Lexi turn into a small baby dragon, or even like a salamander? Not by the rules of this book. Is there an angle I'm not remembering to this question? Can't wait for more lore. The world you built is so interesting to the point. Well, I'm glad people really like it. How do I say what I want to say? There's a lot to it, and there's a lot I'll never talk about, and there's a lot I'm going to talk about. And in 2023, once we get out of Honokuni, there's going to be a pretty major thing that happens that's going to define a lot about how people see Somnus Domina, that might change how they see it a little bit, if they've been following lore and if that stuff super matters to them. And I'm very excited for it. Some people are probably going to think it's a bit odd, but I think that will likely, at the time, if I was asked, I'd probably note that's probably because people tend to look at things as relating to things they know, so they're probably looking at it as like the Forgotten Realms, and there's a thing that's going to happen that's going to come up, and that's going to be not like the Forgotten Realms. I don't want to give away what it is, so I'm being so vague and particular about how I'm talking about it, but yeah, we need Gelfus in the current timeline to give a big lore drop. If he wants to. One of the fun things about Gelfus is he's so chaotic that he's a great filter in universe, because he'll say whatever he thinks is important to say, and he will leave out wildly important details if he doesn't deem them relevant, because he doesn't care much. He says whatever it makes sense to him to say at a given time. He knows a lot, but he's also a great character in that he is not sitting there waiting to exposition everything ever. He's sitting there being like, leave me alone until I'm inspired to talk. Again, you got it. I gave it away, I guess. It's going to be a planet-wide dance battle. No,
Shit.
I should have been more subtle. I've been really...
Should have been more subtle. I saw it coming a mile away.
Yeah, I've been...
Looking forward to that one.
It's Chekhov's dance party, you know? You have people dance once, and if you don't have everything resolved via dancing, it's just bad writing.
Mm-hmm.
Gelfus meets
Clearly the campaign is about dancing.
They did dance once. So...
A dance has occurred.
No, Soul Wolf Lexi cannot turn into a baby dragon. May I ask why you would ask?
Baby dragon.
I'm curious as to where that train of thought's coming from. Is there... I'm curious about, I guess, when people ask questions like that, I usually ask them to elaborate, and I always hope they don't take it as me badgering them, but it's always coming from a place of, did I write something that led you to maybe think that?
Did I type dragon instead of fox somewhere?
Yeah, basically that.
Fox dragon when? What?
Because you thought it'd be adorable. I see.
Ah.
Well, like I said earlier, don't let your dreams be dreams. If you ever run Somna Stamina and you want to believe in your heart of hearts that Lexi's out there being a baby dragon, that's you. Yes! Runty Jupiter, actually, they are, absolutely. Most of the Cassadria, apart from the ones that obviously are like, you know, the Magic Scratch, Devil Scratch, Angel Scratch, those ones obviously they're like arcane and plain touch based, because when I made this I wanted to just get out of the way, like, what is a Tiefling Cassadria? It's a Devil Scratch. What is an Aasimar Cassadria? It's an Angel Scratch. I wanted to get those out there. But apart from those, all of the Cassadrian races are not one-to-one, but they are all based off real types of foxes.
The more the merrier.
Yeah, the caped ones are Fennec foxes.
Heck you. I don't know what type of fox. I don't know the name of it, but like the kind with like mostly black fur, but with reddish orange parts to it. Fucking, that's my favorite kind. I don't know.
Real foxes?
Yeah.
I know the kind you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually.
I do too.
It's actually the kind Kevin's based off of.
Oh.
He hasn't shown up yet, but spoiler tag.
Which kind is that?
It's that there's no specific one based off those, but when he shows up, his color design is going to be
aesthetically.
Aesthetically, it's going to be based on that kind of fox.
Fuck yeah.
That would be like that. There's none that are distinctly based on that, but like you could go red paw or deep wood, because that's more of a coloration thing.
Yeah, that's mostly just like aesthetics. You don't have to worry about the mechanics.
Is there a bingo sheet players can fill out and look in? There is. You just got to go. I'm pretty sure you just do that. Yeah, there it is. You just type the bingo command and it pops up. Oh, I'm excited to get out of Honokuni. Not because I don't like Honokuni, but I've said it before. I'll say it again. Honokuni, as much as anything is meant to happen when it, happens in D&d, Honokuni wasn't meant to happen here. It was something that I was aware of. Like, it was planned. It was mostly written out, and it was part of my world from the beginning, but a lot like the Crystal Queen stuff, it was intended that it would more present itself later. Much later. And then player actions changed the plan, which is what D&D is. I did not... Miriam getting... So the party going to the Crystal Queen's place, getting Deus Yankovic, taking it, giving it to Miriam specifically, and then Miriam making a deal to be like, where's the rest of this, was really just this weird series of completely unpredictable plot threads that led to Honokuni being hoisted in much earlier. I remember whenever, over a year ago now, it must have been about a year ago, when I realized we were doing Honokuni, I very much was like, people are gonna find this jarring. Like, the initial shift, the switch from pursuing Diane to going to Honokuni is going to be jarring to some people. It's going to seem like a very strange digression in the near the like 2/3 mark of another plot. And I had to just kind of be like, it's just what's going to happen, because Miriam has put out the feelers. It's coming. In universe, he and Fenris are now connected to Honokuni, and they're going to pass basically over a river of Shadowfell, like materialized Shadowfell. There's no way that I could rationalize it happening later and not happening there. So I was like, we're doing this, I guess. This is now.
And thus it happened.
Yeah. There's a typo in the class where you describe all the pages for the wizard. Lots of typos. I'm fixing them as we go. What are we talking about, though? Wizard. Grassroots alchemist. A maid? You don't know that's not true. You don't know that's not what it's supposed to be. Maybe they're a maid.
I don't care what class you are. Put on the maid outfit.
I'll fix that. It should also be alchemic. I think in the future, when I do things that are this big, I'm gonna hire multiple proofreaders to take some of the work off of the one that I always work with. Let's see. I made it in my head and also she for Cassadrian's goals to destroy Najistune and claim her divine power and join the first to skulk. Yeah, neat. That's cool. I would love to, like, the Cassadria, like, progenitor legacy storyline is something that is one of the many aborted campaigns in my head, because I'm like, there's no way I can, obviously I'm not going to shoehorn all of that into Vestige. And I don't know if I'll ever get to do anything with it in future, so releasing it in this book was my way of being like, fucking, someone else have fun doing this thing that I would love to do. You're welcome, Eclair. My regret is that I made those spell lists at a point where I was still planning for this to be like 30 pages. So I didn't put the care into them to also separate the individual spell lists by... do you mean the ones in the book, or do you mean the ones that come in the PDF, the individual list? Because I want... Because, you know, we have... where are they? We have... these, which are useful, sure. But the ones that are... I'm pretty sure you're referring to... I'm just going to put one of them up here real quick. Universal, where are you? Where did I put you? You're referring more to, like... I don't know, let's say fucking sorcerer. You're referring more to... Oh! That is not... Don't be that big. You're referring more to this, right? To these? Yeah, I'm releasing these generally to be useful, but this specifically, this format here, instead of this, when I was making this, I spaced out the book originally to account for these, and if I did these like this, it would change the page count and it would mess up the composition, so I didn't change it at the end. But in future, all spell lists for the individual ones in the books are also going to look like this, and I'll also release stuff like this. But, yeah, one of my biggest regrets is that the individual spell lists look like this and are not as useful as being separated into school and level. Let's see. What's my favorite thing that I'm just gonna scroll up a little bit and make sure I didn't miss anything big. Typo. Do Cassadrians go bork or boof? They make fox noises. Foxes make a variety of different noises.
They laugh.
Our favorite is... That's our favorite.
Pow, 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 pow.
Let's see. When players force your hand without knowing it. I'd never say my players force my hand. I'm prepared to do whatever they want to do. Because, you know, there are times where I have to do things that might seem forceful as a GM, but I am also willing to have my arm twisted, and I think that's a back and forth that allows for dynamic storytelling sometimes. You can You can force me to make Honokuni happen when it does. But of course, know that by the nature of the world being under that level of control by the players, there's also certain things in motion, like Fierna, and the consequences of Miriam trying to attune to the Gemstone of Vestige. Like, that could, to some people, at some tables, they might have felt that that event was antagonistic as a DM. I was fine never doing it, but it was a consequence to the circumstances surrounding the gemstone, and it almost happened much earlier in the campaign. But it's like, it's give and take. Players can cause you to do things that you never thought you'd do and to change the course of things. But the other side of that is that if the world is able to adapt to those things, the world's also going to do some random things that you don't expect that might sometimes seem fair. And everybody has to be in the zone where they do not think anyone is trying to mess with anyone else or derail anything. And the worst thing you can do is, the worst thing a DM can do is hate their players. And the worst thing players can do is hate their DM.
Yeah.
Some you can be unhappy with your DM, and there are definitely situations where you should act on feelings, but a healthy table, everybody should be kind of excited about what everybody else wants to do.
Yes.
Let's see. Favorite thing I've worked on specifically for the book. End of all time? Favorite thing I've ever worked on is the book. Just due to the sheer wealth of information I got to put into it, all the art I got to get done, all the different artists I collaborated with. The fact that, like, I'm working with Hydra Studios on a bunch of stuff now, but Hydra Studios, who did the cover, I'm super excited to be working with them on a bunch of things, so that was nice.
Everyone did such a fantastic job on this book, Logan.
Thank you. Putting a face to one of the Eidolons, which I guess I'd done with Vestige, but I fucking love the myth dog image. The fox pirate. This was the last image Hasmi did for the book. Trivia. Heckin'. But I think just getting to put all this, like, information and this stuff out there, the fact that I got to include a lot of text about objectively how the world is, and, like, explain what kind of things are out there that are not tied into the plot, and to show that there's a lot going on in Somnus Domina that isn't at all related to the main story. That was my favorite thing, getting to show that the world is breathing. Now just give me 10 years to continue writing it, to pull a heckin' Kinoko Nasu and eventually revise my own work to the point that it is destroyed. I'll get there. Has the book been released in hard copy form? Nope, I'm still correcting typos. Basically, every time I find a typo in the book or something that is written slightly wrong, it pushes back the books by about a day. At least a day. Let's see. But anyways, my favorite thing in the book was definitely getting to flesh out the first to Skulk. Getting to include feathered dragons, which are going to be expanded on greatly. I'm going to include the stat blocks for every type of feathered dragon in the next book that I do. Well, the Retia's Guide, at least. But getting to include Vercellin Drake as the first one was fun. Getting to put in more yokai, that was great. Getting this art done, just in general, just having that art be a thing that exists. Good times.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just it coming out, it being the first thing of this size that I've done, and seeing it pull together and kind of style on the Spelljammer books, which is low-key something I was doing. That's all my favorite stuff. For those not in the know, I've mentioned it before, but I'm unhappy enough with the content in the Spelljammer books, which is a set of 3, what was it, 62 page, I think it was? 64 page things. I was unhappy enough about the amount of content they included, since there is more to include, that I made it my mission to make this book at least twice as big as any of those books. And
For which we thank you, because fucking... I was so upset with those books when they came out.
Here's 2 spells. There you go. One of them is not even a spell. One of them is permission to breathe in space.
Basically, yeah.
Let's see. Going down the list. Now that the players are as high a level as they are, do you think their personal quests are going to be progression-wise? One of the jobs of the GM is to make sure things are always interesting, in the sense of they're always engaging. Now, if they had gone to do that stuff much sooner, then it would have been one way, and it will still be that way. But since they're tackling them later, you know, the circumstances that they're going to be dealing with when they eventually get to that stuff will be suitable for the abilities that they possess. Whether that means that things might be a bit stronger or have escalated a bit from where they maybe would have been originally, whether that means that, you know, when they fight the big bad, when they face the traitor in the Lion's Council upon the peak of Lion Face Castle, because no one knows anything about what's over there, so I'm not going to say any specifics. When they face each other on the arena on the 100-meter tall giant lion statue with a full gladiatorial arena sitting upon the top of it, a thing that definitely exists. When they face the Vecna, the traitor on the Lion's Council there, you know, it might just be the difference between him having a couple of knights with him, which may have been a suitable challenge originally, to maybe now he has an interesting mount. Maybe now he has a few more knights in that encounter, you know? One of the jobs of the GM, because people like curb stomping things sometimes, but when players have big encounters, they in my opinion, even if they find them difficult, they want them to feel like an accomplishment, like they were presented with a challenge, and they engaged with it and overcame it. Which is why I'm actually very happy that a lot of Vestige, the players seem to survive by the skin of their teeth, because I know coming out of it that my players, Eric included, I believe, thanks to, like in DMS, though it's exhausting, it's also, I think, more rewarding than going into a fight being like, I fire off all my stuff and I've won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy. I've managed to strike a pretty good balance where sometimes encounters are pretty just like, whatever, they're done. Like whenever they went to Stepped Under and they fought those Yugoloths at the gate and they just fucking trounced them. They just threw their hammer. Yeah. Avi teleported. They died. I was like, well, okay, so...
Those things are fun sometimes, but usually...
Yeah, you don't...
It's more fun to...
You don't want to...
Like, straight by.
You don't necessarily want to style on Tiamat. You kind of want to... You kind of want to walk out of fighting Tiamat going like, that fucked. Like, I can't believe we beat Tiamat. You don't want to walk out going like, yeah, no, we did it. We played D&d. Like, so I guess that's to rewind that to my answer. The level of adversity in the challenges they're going to face is not going to be unfairly inflated necessarily, but I always kind of build things in a way where there's some lateral growth that can happen. There's more creative encounters and situations that can happen. Not because any particular person is like, you know, no one's gonna show up and be like, I was actually a dragon the whole time and you just didn't know. Diane's not gonna suddenly have been an ancient white dragon, you know? But the tactics they have and the resources they have and how they use them might change to be more appropriate for the level of play. Also, Diane has always been more dangerous than people give her credit for, and everyone seems to think that she's an actual secretary, and I don't know if that just speaks to how well she disguised herself as it, but people, they always are like, they're gonna curb stomp Diane, and I'm like, she is one of the 3 faces of the most dangerous criminal organization in the world. Sure.
Keyboard man.
Let's see how that goes.
Going down the list. Did you come up with the Cassadrian first, or did Carrie tell you she wanted to play a Fox Girl first? How to answer this without being boring. The Cassadrian, because I've been working on Somnus Domina for a long time. A very long time. Aaron can attest to that. I almost ran games in it a decade ago as a home game, and then didn't. And it's changed substantially from there. The Cassadrian were not originally Fox people. That is an objective fact. They existed in the lore. They were something close to half-elves. But when Carrie wanted to be a Fox person, and we were in the stages where I was like, this is where Somnus Domina gets crafted as a collaboration between what I've done and what the players want to do, that's where they became Fox people, and the lore changed. And, you know, some things are still settling, and some things will always be still settling, and, you know, sometimes new books will contradict old books. It's just how it is. But they were not Fox people before Carrie said they wanted to play a Fox person. But they did exist as a sort of changeling. Kind of. Like another example of that is the family they existed, but they were not as mafia-esque until Izzy wanted to play that kind of organization, so I took an existing element and I changed it, and I moved its bits around, and eventually made it to something new. Because especially, you know, leading up to the first game, I wanted to make sure that the players had a hand in affecting the family. No, and the world. The world, not the family. Hey, Eric, do you want to see Chris Alver's Cassadrian Blood Hunter that they're going to convert into a QB Sword Saint? They're asking you if you want to see that.
Sure.
All right.
I would love to.
All right, send Eric all the art.
Do it.
And the character sheet. And your entire background document. He is willing to have a private consultation session to tell you what he thinks. Right, Eric? He knows all the lore.
Things is true.
He knows all the lore. He's going to work with you to make it as lore compliant as possible. He knows the entire book off by heart.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, he's willing to.
For the low price of $69.69.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
Hello.
I'm just making my way back through questions. We're basically having a Cassadrian book QA. I don't know how long you've been here, Aaron. I didn't hear you come in.
I'm my sneaky ninja. Oh, only like literally 2-3 minutes.
I need to throw your image in here. Make your reactive something you want to be. Where are you?
Okay.
Aaron. Oh, you're...
Colors look different. Let's be cool, Aaron.
I'm gonna use you as the point that hides the scene. Oh, you got big. I'm gonna use you to hide the seam. There you go. Alrighty. Let's see. I had a question for a while, and this is probably the best opportunity to ask it. But Logan, how involved are you in helping your players with their backstories? I've always been curious about the process and how the characters, especially in Vestige, feel so connected and natural in the world. I think, rather than me answer that question, I think it'd be better for the perspective of, we have two players here who have both played in Vestige and in DMS. Why don't you two? You two tell them, what do I do with you guys? And while you answer that, I'm going to be right back.
I've returned with Alfredo.
I mean, for me with Omar, it was heckin' pretty simple. I just was like, I live here. I have a few. He like told me to like make a few friends, just that I know in the city. So I was like, all right, I made up a few friends. He put them in. Fucking, I did not expect him to put my turtle friend in there, which made me very happy. But fucking, it was eventually
Butt fucking.
What?
It's a butt fucking. 'Cause he's a butt fucking.
How dare you? I'm not stinky.
And I basically didn't have much else, and then he was like, how about we make one of your friends tied to the current situation with like Tenebros and the Solus and stuff? And I was like, hell yeah, that gives me a kind of in with the story, so I'll do that. And when I told him I heckin' wanted to be friends with Briar on a whim, he was like, yo,
Yeah.
you just fucking hang out. It says, well, he just like randomly says like, yo, you want to like just fucking have Briar and Omar just be like fucking stoner homies? And I was like, yeah. And that's how that happened. And then he put Briar in. And yeah, that was for me. That's also a more minor character than yours. What about you, Aaron?
Miriam is a very specific case of mine where I had very little to do with the galactic scheme of anything going on with him, because when we made him, I was really starting out my kick of let everything go in D&d, and so we ran through the This Is Your Life section of which book is that? Slide sideways a little bit to look over so I can remember Xanathar's gun. So we ran through that, and we kind of started just working off of it. And then the only hardcore input that I super threw in on Miriam that wasn't something we kind of rolled for or poked at myself was Emma, and all the question marks around that, which I just left open-ended because I knew he could just take that and run. Then it's been just establishing and reaffirming those things ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. So my general process with those two answers, sort of, I'm just going to move this here so that this is center. I command you. Yeah, whatever.
We'll get nuggies.
My general, it changes depending on the person and what they want to do and how specific they want to do things. But I know one thing that comes up, and it might be part of what you're asking, is that people seem surprised by things that happen to their characters. They feel like characters have holes in their backstories or things that can come back into play in ways that are surprising. There can be big reveals, like that. Obviously Aaron didn't have any hand in building any of the stuff with Fierna, Hathoyora, or the Thaniand. All he did know that he came from the Shadowfell, but he didn't have any. He and his family didn't have any real recollection of their time there, and that's just something that we accepted as part of their past. And Eric, I think DMS is a better example because I wasn't sitting down when you said it, but I think you noted that Omar was not as extensive.
Yeah, his was very short and simple.
Yeah, it was less how do you fit into the world and more how do you fit into Summergrass.
Yeah.
But in like DMS, there's big things you don't know about your character. Kind of the same deal of you went in seeking a mystery. I focus on what is your character doing and what do they want a lot. Like things that a lot of GMs will advise you to do. I'm really big on figuring out what your character wants, what got them to wanting it, and what they're doing to get it. And if you know those things, you can proceed. And I find most of my players are pretty good with, once they have that information and we build what their life looks like, which the process for doing so has changed a bit for me over the years as I've found different devices that work a bit better, as I've experimented with different devices. Characters and players, as long as they have something to chase and move towards, I find they will not be super distracted by holes in their stuff, and they're willing to accept things that you present to them as long as those things don't derail the what do I want, which is really just the secret. Is like the answer is kind of an uninteresting. The reason that there's so much that players don't know about is because they don't know about them. And my Nat19 players are all pretty good with rolling with the punches when I inform them that there was actually a big mystery and a thing wasn't what they thought it was. Heckin', because that's just the style of storytelling I think that I often engage in, and not all DMs do that. Not all DMs are good at it. Some excel at it. It's just the style of storytelling I don't like to tell people they're wrong, but I love to give them information that's like, but did you think about it this way? That's kind of where I like to sit, because I also don't like stories that just tell you like, oh, actually you've been wrong about everything at every step of the way.
Yeah,
I like stuff
that was. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just say that was like the case with Gino, where it's like I had with the vague details you described to me, there was a very strong impression of what happened in my head that was not at all what happened. I thought Gino was like fucking like abducted and fucking like brainwashed basically into fighting for somebody, and then it turns out, oh no, he just put himself in a suit of armor and doesn't remember it.
Yeah. I also think that making sure that stuff never threatens what the player wants to do, because you never want to make somebody feel arbitrary in their own story. You never want to leave them at a point where you're like, well then, what's the point? You know? In like the Gino case, that's an example of like the context has changed, but wanting to know the full truth is still the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
In Miriam's case, he's found out a lot about what he wants and what he wants to do, but his story was his self-dictated story was always about finding things that he shouldn't and supporting Quinn. And that hasn't changed. The context has just evolved because supporting Quinn has now taken on a radically different meaning with a similar trajectory, but more urgency. So when I DM for people, I very much try to keep them on the same general path, but give them extra context to change how they see it. And like mysteries and whatnot to me are less, here's a thing you didn't know that changes everything, and more, here's perspective that might alter your understanding of it, but doesn't fundamentally, knowing that Hirohito might be more the point of Honokuni than Samurai, and knowing that he was actually a not well done by person who lived a bad life is all context that informs how to engage with the end of Honokuni, but it does not change the fact that Hirohito is a problem that has to be dealt with as a problem. It doesn't turn him into someone that we should sit down and have tea with. I mean, unless the players did that, I don't know. You've sat down with Hirohito to have tea. I guess that's what I'm doing that day. But yeah. It's different for everybody. I mean, and sorry to linger on this question so long, but it's a exhaustive question.
So much space to play inside the question.
Like with Miriam, we figured out major key events in his life, like meeting Quinn, where he got his interest in being a bard, where his guilt comes from regarding Quinn, why he's stuck to him the way he is. Like, that was all fundamentally important. As they role-played, Cody and Aaron added to that without my involvement, such as this constant fucking hag in the swamp fucking stuff, if I'm remembering.
We've never mentioned a hag during the session.
Oh, is it not a hag? What was it?
We believed it was a hag, and that's something we've implied.
Oh,
we
yeah.
literally said there was a hag. We're just like, that time in the song. It's the incident.
The incident, yeah. I have no idea anything about that, and I refuse to get involved with what it was. It's not my business as far as I'm concerned. But, like, that's what we did with them. Whereas with Fenris and Lexi, building their characters involved constructing timelines, like meticulous timelines. Fenris was a lot. The angle of approach for Fenris, once we figured out kind of what she wanted her character to be, was I spent a lot of time telling Braden what the 100 or so years of time looked like, what dates things probably happened, making suggestions about how it could have affected her, asking her, if this happened to Fenris, what would your reaction to it be? And just figuring out the timeline. Similar with Lexi, it was figuring out a chain of events that led them to wanting to escape, and then figuring out where those were, because they're part of an organization, who left what impression on them, and then landing on the final goal of she's out and wants to find her family. With Raleigh, I mean, you know, objectively, a lot of Raleigh was, do you want to have this 2-year gap in your memory that you let me play with and you can find out about, and here's the consequences, but you don't know the events. And that's the long and short of that. Was I got handed just 2 years where I got to do whatever I wanted.
Blank slate.
Yeah, and that was great. And with Vogan, it was nailing down sort of the emotional path that he walked before coming to the party, and then
getting them in the right mind frame for why they're doing their pilgrimage.
Yeah, Vogan was a lot more releasing them and seeing where they went. Like, Vogan it's interesting because with Spencer, in particular, he engages with D&D a little bit differently than, for example, Aaron and I do. He really likes combat, and he likes objectives. And so one of my things with him was to give him the emotional state and the beginning of the arc, and then give him a path, which is the pilgrimage, but then being like, the key here is you can't start it. You need to build a reputation. So there's consequences to not beginning the emotional journey to make Vogan a better person, because he has to literally prove himself to people that he's just going to meet. So with him, it was very, here's your quest. You can't start it until you find a seed of something on your own. And it worked out, in my opinion, and he's going to get to start it. And there's a part of me that's like, maybe starting his core quest at 12th level might seem late, but it's actually not, in my opinion.
His story isn't starting there. It's his objectives are beginning to start falling in line.
Because it was never, just to finish the thought, it was never going to be, here's a travel path of these 4 temples, go to them. I made it pretty clear, I think, that these temples are not easy to get to. Like, a couple of them, they don't even know where they are. So it was always a matter, in my mind, it was always going to be like a level, at least 9+ thing of like, going to them is going to be individual mini campaigns, and other parts of the story will probably be driven by the adventure going there. In a way, Vogan was also a good excuse to be like, I can put a roadmap in front of him, and that if the party wants to stay with Vogan, they have to follow the map and go around places, which I can use to throw things from other people's stories into their way and deal with them on the way. His is like a spine that the story can, once he gets going, follow to take them across the world. That, I mean, will probably just happen to end up intersecting with a bunch of other relevant things. Who knows? The way the world works in a weird way, doesn't it? But yeah, so they were all different. I think one of the main things is you have to figure out what a player wants to do in D&D, and then the way you help them build their character is heavily contingent on making sure that they have something that addresses that need, and then also overlaps with what everybody wants to do in some way, which I think they have, because Vestige is pretty, it's been going on quite a while at this point, but it still feels like it's strong, and I think that's good. What were you going to say, Aaron? I'm sorry, remember. I stepped all over you.
No, by all means. Like, that's what people are here for.
All right, I think I'm gonna step over a couple of these. Has the book been released in a hard copy, or is it doing its last bits? I think I talked to that one already. Sorry for the lore question, but for the truth, as the Fanium put it, the only conditions having 2 matching Constellar queries? No, I don't think I ever. If I ever said that in character, I didn't mean to. No, it's effectively unobtainable. Like, people have not reached it. If it was as easy as just getting 2 Constellar queries together, it'd have been done by now.
Oh, and Jakku was also aware of the truth, right? Wasn't that part of? They were one of the only other people that kind of knew about it.
Yep.
And so, I don't think they had any.
Nope. They encountered it. They became aware of it. Spoiler tag. They didn't. They
didn't reach the truth.
Yeah. But and they didn't have any. It is Superstition, and I think I've made this pretty clear that there's a bunch of people that have superstitions about the Constellar queries, where there's I'm blanking on one of my own characters' names. Almyra Almyra believes in this old Cahulian legend that if you gather all of them together, that you can effectively change the world fundamentally. You can make a super wish. That's a thing she believes, not objectively true. The Faignant knows that it's something Satsuma is after, and the Faignant doesn't necessarily hold that belief, but believes it to be something that people don't come back from. Heckin' Jakku's reached it, but Jakku has no compunctions about changing the world in any way that resembles those two things. They simply bound this elder elemental being, this deific elemental, to their soul, and something about that process or something afterwards led them to it. One thing I've tried to make very clear is the truth is not anything particularly certain. It is a foundational element of my game, but it's not like a Full Metal Alchemist. The truth is like the source code of the universe kind of situation.
I guess in a way, there's no singular way to get there.
No.
Or answer.
Yeah, no one's made it.
Yeah, there's no book. You can't look it up and be directed that way.
But people have beliefs, and the Constella queries are one of the recurring elements in different ways to get there. And not many people know about it. And the people who do know about it, there's actually a tell, design-wise, that a few members of our community have picked up on, that I'll not address specifically, but some people have sort of noted what it is, that you can kind of tell by looking at certain people that they may have some awareness of the truth. Okay. People saying they're gonna buy the books. Poison Fox Girl's way too hot. Yeah, that's actually one of the Solar Shadow characters. She's not a. If you're thinking of the. Which one? Which one are they under? Is that one of the Petal Knights? Where are you? Are you thinking of them? Toxicology Magecraft? That's one of the Fenrir sisters from Solar Shadow. Let's see. Twitch. Face her and their crazy mask is totally not a Constella query. Crazy mask. I don't know what you're talking about. Any advice would be good to give people who want to start their own campaign? That's a whole nother topic.
Do it.
Do it. Make mistakes. Throw yourself in. Run the game wrong.
Like, spoilers, Strahd and all of the weird jank at the beginning is me in my first long-term DMing thing ever. I did a couple tiny ones before that, but you kind of just have to do it to do it.
Yeah. I mean, this you never know everything, and you're always making mistakes. This stream literally started with me being like, doesn't the rogue have an auto-crit ability at level 20? And then finding out I've been wrong about that. And I misremembered. Heckin'. Here's all of space. You get half a book. Let's see. Basically, I think that's clearly talking about the Spelljammer stuff. I just don't like space much in general. Spelljammer stuff in general is never really exciting to me. And then when it came out and they sold it in one of those really pretty boxes, which it's a pretty box, it was really deceptive in my opinion, because it gave the impression of it being like a full set of books. Like each one you'd expect to have like 200 pages. It really betrayed the fact that those 3 books together were the size of a regular like release of Xanathar's Guide of Fizban's. And then when they had barely anything in them and just had a kind of a lot of fluff, which maybe was interesting, but not to me. That's kind of why when I was writing the Cassadrian, I was like, you know what? Fuck, I'm gonna make a point here of having my stupid Fox book be twice as big, just to show that you can write a lot about a thing and make it useful. Let's see. Put some of the Cassadrian on the Redbubble stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't really. I mean, it's probably been evident, but we haven't really been doing Redbubble stuff for a while. It's a bit more trouble than it's worth, and Redbubble is an interesting site.
Unscrupulous, perhaps, is a kind way to.
Yes.
Redbubble.
Who's your favorite of the first to skulk? Ignoring the first to consume. Yeah, probably QB. I would agree with you. Although Magnesia, whose kit scratch marks are a very direct reference to a character from a thing I really like. And if anyone ever if you want to go try to figure out who it is, please do. But her kit scratch marks, including the mark on her face, are a very specific reference to someone, to an anime character. Was it difficult making any of the table members? Which was my favorite to create? It was not difficult. It was, I mean, figuring out who they were, giving them a variety of goals, making sure they weren't just things to beat up, having them all have different tactics, which I think is what lends itself to people being like, oh, it's like a Holy Grail War, and it's like, you get a variety of people to do different things. That's what a Holy Grail War is. The difficulty was making sure there was variety. And that it still felt kind of like D&d. Because, like, it felt like a Somnus Domina thing, but I still wanted it to feel like, oh, cool, we're fighting an Afridi. Oh, cool, we're fighting a Lich. And then also have the Honokuni flavor on top of those things. And I think I succeeded. My favorite... I really like Selche. But Selche was the only one of them, really, that I think didn't get expanded on in a way I had hoped. But that also comes with the territory of they were a silent character that was dedicated to spying.
Yeah. Most of their story was about as silent as they were. It's through context that we really got anything about them.
The best way, the best thing that could have happened to expand on Selche, there are two things. One, if anyone had ever tried to attack Semrai, Selche would have defended them, and there would have been a lot of context that would have been established in that specific situation that otherwise there wasn't. The other way was, if the party had not dealt with Selche before going up to see Seiryu no Tenkei, Selche probably would have tried to ambush and attack the party at some point, either coming back from the mountain or going up it, because she would have established that they're at a point where they are crossing a threshold where they are no longer just to be monitored, they're a threat. So there would have been more context. But the way it happened, they were found, they acted, they stole Wrench, they made their mark, they came back, they fought, they died. They didn't talk as much as some of my characters usually do, but, I mean, I don't live by my monologues, so it's fine by me. Let's see. It looks like Aaron's hitting on the feather lady. Oh, when... I gotta put it back, because that was from earlier. I gotta put it back so I can have it on screen. The Ember Wing. It's one thing I want to expand on with my books, too, is D&D doesn't have a lot of Celestials. It's got kind of the big ones. One thing I'm focusing on when I'm releasing them is I want to focus on the kind of Celestials, like Devas, Archons, and whatnot, that operate underneath the Eidolons, because not a lot of material cares to give people celestial things that can actually be used ever. Planetars and Solars are great, but, like, when's the last time you really used one? Like, really, in a game? They're such a big deal that you get to use them once in your entire DMing career, and then they never pop up again. I think Archons are a much better way to have celestial entities that are more like foot soldiers. There you go, Aaron. I get to... Your thing gets to... There you go.
Hooray!
She's not happy about it, though.
Look at him pointing. I'm like, look at those feet.
Put it up. There we go. Hey. All right. You don't know. We're catching up with when I was talking about. Any cool Easter eggs the party missed in Honokuni? The party has just managed to evade Siddiki. They have just managed to not ever be in the same place as him, and not for a lack of me trying. This is a character with art, and he's just not been around, and where it's too late. He's not showing up. Fucking, you just never get to learn about Siddiki. You never get
on the way. He's like walking Bastille. He's like, who the fuck are you?
There's also a bunch of things in Bochi, such as the family that owns the silk farm. What was it? The Hikoriboshis. They could have been a relatively influential aspect if the party had done more stuff in Bochi. The party hasn't met Shiga, which surprises me, but it's also the way things go. The other Water Ganassi vampire. She was hiding whenever they went to meet Vigami, and you just never met her. It just didn't happen. Again, character with art. She had a legendary weapon that it just might not come up. Heckin'. But yeah, you just did not meet Siddiki, this wandering fucking eccentric merchant who would have told you, and it's too late now, would have told you, for example, like, yeah, no, Ravissima had this, like, unique perfume she could make. If you go get it, I'm like, fucking, I can give you stuff. Like, he was your one way to buy magic items in this place. And you just somehow... And I never brought it up, I was just occasionally moved him into the general path you would have. And I could put him in the middle of the road, and you guys would be like, we are flying. Like, that's the level of, I guess we're not meeting Siddiki. Like, my God. Okay. Okay. This isn't on any of you, players. When he heard Dead Man's Pass opened, he decided to go through it and head down towards Tenchiseki and would have met you. And then y'all were like, what if...
Why don't you teleport?
Why don't we teleport and just... Jigoku Saiga probably passed him on his way to meet you guys. Like, he was on his way being like, there's no way they can avoid him. And then circumstances led to teleporting. I was like, well, whatever. I don't care. I just do not care about whatever. You missed Siddiki. It's fine.
A year later, we're in the Shadowfell for some other reason. He's just walking along in a different place.
If you ever go to Harakir, then maybe you'll meet him. I don't know. You're probably not gonna go there. Like, there's no need. Let's see. Catching up to Vogue and stuff. Oh my God, I'm quite far back. Now the Inscriptor book in Vestius has a crazy mask they wear. It's one of their Constellaquaries. It's not, but it is one of their artifacts. Well, it's not one of their Idolic Constellaquaries. Better way to put it. Does each character have some kind of artifact weapon, or even some they haven't found yet? I don't know. They haven't found what they haven't found. I don't really tell people what to use. If I had my way, Deus Yankovic would be on Lexi.
Yes, if Merriam had his way, it would be on Lexi.
But it's not.
Merriam's like, this is entirely unsuited to me. Outside of the occasionally, I don't get hit by a thing, which is nice.
I estimated that eventually Lexi would be the one to get them, just because of the framing device of Lushu and whatnot. I don't tell people what to do, but that's why I subtly, early in the campaign, put a revolver into one of the things that you got, and I kind of insinuated that Lexi could learn to use it.
The one she then never used.
Yeah, I even gave her fun little punch bullets, because I thought that would appeal to Carrie, and then she was like, these are neat! I'm not going to use them, though.
And then he tucks into belt, walks away.
Yeah, and then that was kind of my way of being like, you could pick up an early skill proficiency to use firearms, and then I thought maybe eventually the Tiberius barrel knife, but no, you guys have just been determined not to do that, and I was like, I'm not gonna force it, it's whatever. I don't care who uses what. But yeah, I definitely had a soft little path that you kind of it just didn't happen. So to that end,
happen, not in the cards.
To that
yeah,
end,
no, the only reason he hasn't already tried to give it to one of the rogues is because He's like, all right, someone's gonna scry on this fucking thing, and I would rather it not be y'all, because none of them are as emotionally connected to their own deaths as Miriam seems to be, and he's not gonna hand them effectively a death sentence.
Yeah.
So he's like, I want to deal with the Crystal Queen and everything around it, and now Fierna and everything around it, before allowing them to utilize those things.
Have you gotten the Tome of Beasts 3 yet? I just bought the PDF today and it has some good monsters. I don't know who I talked to about this recently. I love their stuff. I haven't gotten it yet. I was part of the Kickstarter for it, I think. It was a Kickstarter? Must have been. I have access to the PDF, but I like reading books physically, so I'm waiting for them to get that to me, and then I'll read it. But the Tome of Beast stuff, super excited. I think that Kobold Press's Bestiaries are some of the most fun content I've seen come out of like third-party publishers, so I'm super excited for more of it. It's all very creative. Some of it's like, I don't know when I'd ever use this, but it's cool that it exists. Like the
Snake with 1,000 mage hands.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm waiting for it. Logan, I am planning on launching a Final Fantasy campaign sometime in the new year. As someone who I know enjoys the series, what kind of strength do you think the series could lend to a D&D game? Well, you have pantheons, is the first thing. All your big summon things, Bahamut, Rama, whatever. You have gods, in whatever context you want to use them. The problem with your question is that Final Fantasy's a lot of things. Like, if you had said I plan on running a Final Fantasy VII campaign, I would have a much more specific answer, because I'd be like, well, it's a chance to use, to elaborate on firearm rules, which, heckin', firearm rules are in this book. If heckin', I think I've really fleshed out some fair and balanced ones, which I've spent a lot of time agonizing over firearms in D&D, and where are you? Yeah, it's so far up. There's just so much content in this book. It's just overwhelming amounts. It's hard to navigate.
I'm buried in content.
There's too much. The weapon
So much
property,
content.
firearms. I'd say that it's a chance to use that, and you could do some cool stuff with materia. I briefly had thought about making a light Final Fantasy VII system a long time ago that basically takes out mages, gives everyone a spell point system, and gives you materia, and different types of materia rely on different stats and whatnot. It didn't go anywhere, because then I got busy doing other stuff. But, that's the kind of stuff you could do. Whereas if you're doing, like, a Final Fantasy 15 game, I'd be like, well, it's kind of just gonna be D&D. Because Final Fantasy 15 had the issue of kind of the only special person in the world is Noctis. All the cool big things that you can do in that game are kind of Noctis things. Beyond that, it's just a world with cars and monsters. In a good way. I like 15. As weirdly jigsaw-y as it was. And if you're like, I want to make one with 8, I'd be like, well, there's a lot of cool things to go with monsters. Like the fact that monsters basically all come from the moon, and there's this reoccurring idea of a sorceress and their knight. You could play around with that, either for antagonists or with some of your protagonists fitting those roles. And the draw system, you could make it work. I have no short form answer on how to make the draw system work in D&D without it being a micromanaging nightmare. But you could play around with doing that. So really, it depends on what.
Oh,
what?
Stream got flagged as offline.
Are we offline?
Oh no, we're back. Weird.
How long were we offline?
Like a second. I just refreshed the page and we're back.
Oh no.
That was weird.
What's my favorite location? Let's see. But yeah, it depends on the game. It depends on the Final Fantasy. I would propose, I don't know, it's interesting. If you are just making a general Final Fantasy inspired campaign that isn't one of the existing worlds, then really you're just drawing on names and iconography. You're like, you have a dragon named Bahamut, for example. because every Final Fantasy is so distinct and different that it's kind of hard to posit a through line if you're just making your own world. Yeah, okay, so you're doing kind of 10 and 8. So you're looking for kind of like a military Magitech sort of setting is kind of what you're doing. Okay. Then you have the benefit of worlds where there's a lot of technology no one understands, especially if you're using 10, because in 10, people don't like tech, but it's there. So there's a lot of tech that is supernatural in that context that you can draw upon. 10 in particular also has an interesting cosmology, because it doesn't have gods, but it has the Aeons, which fit the role, which is neat. They're like demigods. It's like a world with demigods but no gods. And that's neat. The Siege Garland's a ranged weapon, can sneak attack. I mean, unless I wrote in text that says something that says no. It can sneak attack against, what is it? No, I don't believe so, actually. I think I got ahead of that. The Siege Garland, you basically fire a bomb. Where are you? Because the thing is, where are you on here?
Like a fantasy grenade launcher?
It's basically a hand cannon. It's like, it is for all, and it's kind of carrying a small cannon. In a way. But, the thing about it is, you're not doing an attack roll with it.
They make a saving throw.
They make a saving throw, so it can benefit from sneak attack. It's on the list, but it's not an actual attack. Yeah. I was sitting there being like, I would have thought of that. I wouldn't have made the grenade launcher. That. Let's see. Make a bladed gun character. I hope people enjoy the addition of this stuff. The gun blade, the gun lance, trigger weapons, what have you. When I release the next thing I want to do, which is the Retia guide, it will have more like this on it. It will have expanded this stuff. Originally, I wasn't going to throw this into the Cassadrian book, but I was like, yeah, whatever. It's a good chance to throw some of this stuff out, get it out of my brain. Another thing I wanted to get out of my brain that I'm really happy I put into this is... use this. I challenge you all to use this somewhere. The Assassin's Teapot.
Assassin's Teapot.
Use it for something. I've made it for you. Do something with your players. No one that watches this stream, because now anytime you should put a teapot in front of them, they're gonna be like, oh, there it is. But fucking unleash the Assassin's Teapot. It's cooler than any magic item in the game.
It's true.
Oh, goodness. And it's a real thing. Go on YouTube and type in Assassin's Teapot. This isn't something I invented. This is something I appropriated. The Assassin's Teapot is super cool. Also, the box of endless lunch. Use that too. Eat some food. Nom, 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 nom.
What about second
Container
lunch?
of endless bento. All right, here's a real question.
Okay.
Do I get KFC or Wendy's?
You have a hankering for gravy?
I mean, I'm definitely not against gravy in my life.
When was the last time you had something that was a gravy food? That wasn't poutine.
I don't know. Thanksgiving?
Get KFC.
Yeah.
But the food doesn't taste good? Doesn't matter. It's food. Put some salt on it. Carry salt. You create the food. The salt has taste. Throw salt on it. Have some
It
imagination.
tastes like salt.
Yeah, so what?
Delicious.
Delicious salt. It'll bring out the no flavor.
Salt. I had a salt eating contest with my sister when I was a kid.
Salt the tasteless dried rations.
My sister and I went super hard at eating a shitload of salt, and
Just by itself.
yes, it was to see who could eat more salt at once than the other one, and she handed me like a handful of salt, and I just stuffed it in my mouth, and then within seconds had to run away to throw up because my body was like, no.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. The Way of Tomoe Gunslinger will be fun. So the gunslinger, or do you mean the gun class in this book? Either way, cool. Neat. Unless you just mean gunslinger in the general term of you're going to make a Tomoe, Way of Tomoe character, then have them use a gun. In which case, you did it. You gamed the system. You're doing me proud. Being like, I am a sword saint, but I have a rifle. That's radical. Fucking, I love that. And it's not even technically historically accurate. Samurai could absolutely have had guns. Just not very good ones. Oh.
Musketeers.
Yep. Yeah, just fucking carry some pepper, get some butter. Use the box of endless lunch, put some butter on your tasteless food, be like, there, it tastes like butter.
Little musketeer butterflies? That sounds cute.
Oh, is it that the box of endless lunch makes tasteless food?
It produces... Yes, I can read it.
It's like the create food and water spell where it's
I
like...
see. Press the digitation on it and then make it taste like something.
Yeah. I'm not here to tell you you can't do that. No, I want your character to not enjoy their meal. How dare you? How dare you circumnavigate this? Be unhappy. You know, heckin'. 2 iron latches seal this wooden box. When opened, it contains enough dried, tasteless rations, not water, for up to 15 medium-sized creatures to eat their fill for 1 day. All food taken from it and not consumed disappears the following dawn, at which point the box is replenished. So it can feed 15 people a day, but it's, like, super neutral food. It's a bunch of jerky. Enjoy the taste of Honokuni. It would be a good Honokuni item, because it doesn't do any more than it needs to in that setting. Gosh. Yeah, does anybody have any other questions or anything about the book? We've been streaming for, what? I don't know how long.
Nearly 2 hours?
Nearly 2 hours. We'll probably wrap up soon. I just want to make sure something is happening today. And by the way, everybody, we're streaming Monday. As far as I know, unless someone raises a problem, we're streaming at the usual Vestige time. So, 1 p.m., I think. Unless somebody comes up to me and they're like, no.
Kicks the door and they're like, nay!
Yeah.
The only, I think, things we might run into might be on the Ale and Hayden side, and if they have things going on.
Yeah.
Their schedules are vastly more packed than the majority of Nat19 players.
We'll post on Twitter, and also on our Discord if something happens. You okay?
Powerful.
You alright? You'll be okay. Right. Does QB not have progeny? Well, let's... Normally I'd say it'd do what the text say it'd do. But you know what? I've got the text right here. So, this is one of those rare occasions where I can be like, well, let's look. Let's look at what past Logan wrote. That sneaky boy. Always writing stuff.
Always using your text
Always
to make
creating.
words in a sentence. Oh, that one's cute.
Which one? Oh, you haven't seen that one?
With the twin tails. Yeah, they look like the Wendy's of the Cassadrian.
Oh no! Oh, that's all I'm gonna see now. They're a myth dog. They're a bard. They're a bard pirate.
I love them.
Hooray! She can steal all the
They're one of the crewmates of Magnesia. Who is... That's Magnesia. They're the one whose kit scratch
No,
mark.
I think it was just at the forefront of my mind because I was considering it shit. Ah, yeah, that's cute.
Okay, cute.
I found a chimkin sandwich that looks awful, and I need to try it.
Now, what did I write about their progeny? I'm pretty sure I remember it, but I want to find the exact text. Elstrakin suspects that QB's refusal to pass on her traits somehow prevented her from losing her physical immortality, though whether or not she knew this is beyond anyone's knowledge. She has no progeny. There is no sub-race based on her because she refused to have kids, is basically the long and short of it. They didn't all have kids. It's not quite that simple. It's a bit more territory that we don't go into, and we just leave it up to mythology, but basically she was like, no, I don't need descendants. So there are no Cassadria with a sub-race that is derived from her, whereas the other ones are derived from either a member of the First to Skulk or from being plain touched. Now, she was too busy learning to swing her sword. Too busy being like, yo, Luciu, I got some ideas and need you to help me refine them. And Luciu was like, aight. And then they became best friends.
I think the next time I play Cleric, I want to be a Cassadrian.
Hmm?
I think the next time I play Cleric, I want to be a Cassadrian.
Well,
sounds like a fun combination.
Well, just as some ideas for you. You don't have to follow them, but the book does outline the Dustpelt Conclave, which is, where are you? A specific sect of clerics and paladins that follow the teachings of one of the First to Skulk who have died, who Najistune killed. They are based loosely off the some of the paladin and cleric stuff from the book. Also, just low-key, this is one of my favorite designs in the whole book.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I regret that there is not more page space for them, but I love them so much. How do y'all go about making your characters for new games? We actually we answered that earlier. So if you want to look back in the VOD, we covered that a while. We covered character creation a while ago. Although you guys, if we expand the question out to how do y'all go about making characters, excuse me, you two, where do you start? Even before I get involved, where do you start?
Generally, I have a class or race combination I want to play first. And if usually it's those things that inspire an idea or an archetype of a character I want to play. And then I go buck wild and usually start rolling randomly for things about them because why not discover it instead of decide it? I don't have to necessarily write a book to make them fantastic when I can be like, oh my god, they're from where? Which is how we got the Shadowfell from Mary. We rolled on the table and it was like, the Shadowfell. We're like, all right, well, we'll figure that out later. But that's a little tick up, and that created some of the coolest parts of Miriam's story.
Yep.
So letting things organically develop is really, really fun. Outside of that, yeah, literally, I've been just going down the list of classes. I mean, like, what would go good with this? If I am aware of enough of the party's classes, I often will tend to move towards human. That's just a personal tendency to be like, the world is absolutely filled with humans, and the more there are, the more it kind of feels that way.
Not that you'd know from the highest standard party.
Yeah, no, the high standard is almost exclusively not so. Outside of that, yeah, I love, give me tables. Rolling tables, it's fun. I recommend rolling a table.
Yeah.
Everyone likes rolling dice, everyone likes tables. And these are the most you can, because you're in character creation, it's not like you have a time threshold that you really got to get through. So you could spend your time with these rampantly silly tables. Even Miriam's cat eyes was, I found some random table online of like things that are unique about your tiefling. And I rolled on that, and he's purple and has cat eyes. And that's how Miriam became that.
Yeah.
Works for me because I like those things.
Krabozi, just to skip forward to your question, trying to grasp the idea of false eidolons. Can a yokai become a false eidolon, or are false eidolons manifested that way? They are born... Yokai are created from, like, psychological events. Some of them are things that turn into yokai, but that's like the 1%. 99% of the time, a yokai in Somnus Domina is a reflection of an extreme emotional or cultural event, shift in the zeitgeist or whatnot, or on a personal level, a small yokai might be created from someone is spurned, and their resentment or loneliness creates a yokai, the embodiment of that negativity. Or if someone gets murdered, the murder might create a supernatural event that reflects the agony and the event of that murder. A false eidolon is a Dai-yokai level yokai that is created from a mass misperception of an eidolon, of people praying to an eidolon, hoping for it to do things, or envisioning it in a way that is not true. And this perception forms, this negative perception often forms into a being that is a yokai that believes itself to be the eidolon, but is shifted and is in line with the false perceptions that came with it. And they inherently know they're not the eidolon, but because they were born from an earnest belief that the eidolon is whatever they are. For example, if a whole culture thought that Lushu was a goddess of war or something, or that like a whole town, let's say, secretly, independently, genuinely believed if they prayed to Lushu, that Lushu would appear in the world and assassinate someone, like a High Lord or what have you. This collective false perception can create a false eidolon that is that thing that they're trying to create. And the false eidolon knows that they're not real, but they force themselves to not believe that, and they try to act as if they're an aspect of the eidolon because they want that to be true, and they go about basically trying to be the eidolon. So no, a regular yokai can't become one. They come into being that way, similar to how a lot of Dai yokai in the setting are born from mass events, not a singular person having a bad feeling, but like heckin' the Wolf Dai yokai in Honokuni, for example, is the result of all of the huntering and slaughtering of all of the nobles and their related families collectively became him. He didn't start out as a smaller yokai and become bigger. He is the mass psychological event, all that negativity coalescing in the Shadowfell into this singular being that represents that tragedy. And almost all Dai yokai are that way. Although there's, some Narakus out there. There's some exceptions.
There are always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah. But with false eidolons, because to be one requires that lying to themselves about what they are, there's no real way for another being to become one. They have to be that because they need the fundamental belief that they are that. Many of them would appear and be like, I'm not a yokai. I am a new aspect of this god, and I need to act as such. And even if the god appeared and was like, you are not a part of me, they'd be like, well, you don't know.
Shut up.
Maybe you're not real. Maybe I'm actually Lushu and you're some imposter. Button up your shirt.
Kill you and absorb you into me to become the real me.
That'd be an anime way to go about it. But and on the topic of button up your shirt, just to swing back, why is Lushu so boobylicious? Fun bit of trivia. I wanted her to have like a deep V on her coat originally in her first design, but I didn't want it to be so gratuitous. But it's what Hazme got me, and I was like, whatever. She's stylish. And then in every iteration after that, okay, let's go down a timeline. This is the first image of Luxu that was ever made. This one specifically. And I was like, it's a bit much, but it's okay. Vestius' first image also isn't... The one that I put in the inscriptor also isn't Vestius' first one. Often with important characters, there's a couple images. There's a couple shots at them. But this is the first one I got back, and I was like, whatever. She's got, like, Matsumoto body. It's fine. I've never been upset about that kind of thing with the character, as long as there's something substantial under it. Especially with gods, because gods are frivolous and gratuitous. But, after that, though, when I kept getting them commissioned, I kept trying to insinuate... The next thing I got commissioned was I wanted this. Which you'll note, she's covered up more. Her kit scratch is also different. You can't see it very closely, but her kit scratch, the runes, are more elaborate, which is a change that I wanted to have made. But she's more covered up, because I was like, yeah, we could cover them up a bit more, just so they're not super distracting and everything. And then these two images are the ones that I sent to every artist that I used afterwards. And I insinuated they should take more from this. However, every artist I had work on this after that decided to take things into their own hands. The next image that I got was... Where are you? The next image I got back from Mary was this one, where I was like, well, they went with the booby one, and I was like, I'm not upset about it, but I found it funny that they either just missed that part of my notes, or they're like, nah, she hot, I'm gonna draw her hot. So I was like, whatever. I like the image overall. I don't really care. And then I worked with a Hydra, and the same thing happened where I insinuated I didn't draw attention to her bust at all, and I used the other one more gratuitously, and that's the one they went with, and I was like, well, every artist I've worked with has just disagreed. They think that the girls are just out. I think that's just what Luxu is now. I think my artists have put me in my place. This is just where we are.
Spoken.
Yeah, so that's where we are. It's neither a good nor a bad thing, but I do think it's funny that there's a story of me slowly trying to be like, nah, we can close her shirt up a bit. And artists being like, we can't, though.
No.
We can't, though.
Are you mad?
Sorry, can't do it.
Throw it into the fire.
Yeah.
Destroy it. No.
Why shouldn't I have her shirt open? Fucking, but yeah, that's where that is. I like, you know, cleavage is great, hot girls are great, but characters can be hot and cool, and the nice thing about magic settings is when people are super powerful, they often start being eccentric, and that often leads to them being kind of hot. So these things happily go hand in hand. But I do try to avoid too much fan service, because, you know, having the power to commission things, that part of your brain often fires the moment you're commissioning stuff. And like, this is a good place to land. For example, her image, her design, one of my favorites I've ever made. Like, fucking Blister's so cool.
Yeah.
And like, there's nothing fan servicey, and I want as much of that as I want fan servicey stuff in my stuff. But sometimes they go hand in hand. I can also, sexy is, you know, dangerous is sexy. So that's just how it is sometimes. And gods are, you know, I do kind of ascribe to the belief that in fantasy settings especially, gods are either horrific or they're indulgent. Visually. It's just kind of where I land. So that's where that is. Vestius I don't even try to cover up, though. Because Vestius, she is partially the goddess of temptation. So I'm like, no, she is genuinely kind of Aphrodite in a weird way. So I'm like, no, she's hot. But yeah. And have someone clip that whole tirade and put it online and make it seem like all I want to do is talk about Luxu's boobs. Oh. I love their hair. And by that I mean the fire that cascades from their body.
Yes.
So open shirt Luxu is behind the scenes of False Eidolon. Kind of. It's actually very funny. When I got to the point when I got to the point of getting the false Eidolon art done, which was one of the last things, I can fucking love this art so much. Every time I pass this page, I'm like, if I hadn't already worked with Hydra, this would probably have been the cover. Like, it's so good. It looks like an anime movie.
Yeah, a little bit.
But, oh, and just while we're on the topic of gratuitous things, if anyone ever tries to come at me being like, why is the Deva totally naked? They don't like clothes. Like, that's not a me decision. Monadic Devas in general, they don't like clothes. They only wear them when they have to. OBS just decided to heckin', it's doing the thing where it's still streaming, but it crashed. So we'll wrap up here soon. But just as a last fun touch, because the false Eidolon art was done so late in production, I explicitly was like, I want one of the key differences to be that she like super covered up. Just to make her like have this distinct difference between her and Lucia. That's how you know you're fake, false Eidolon. You know how buttons work. That's how you know you're not real. Heckin', but yeah, no, my stuff just crashed, so I can't see the chat. So, I don't know, I'm gonna go onto the page and see if we have a couple more, like maybe one more good question, and I think it might be good to be out of here. I think I will post this on the main thing. I think I'll rip this stream and post it, because this is, yeah, for a product. Let's see.
Look at those shoes!
What?
It's because my fingies are pointing at her feet.
Oh,
So look at those shoes.
Oh, goodness.
Aaron's just like, what are those?
I love how Booba became a divining feature. I mean, like, let's... Yeah. Have you been on the internet? Again. Let's see. We need all the Eidolons Gynax posing? Dude, I mean... That poster, that thing I showed you, the second image of her, the one with her against, like, the backdrop, it is. The reference I gave Asmi was very much like I kind of low-key want her to be softly Gynax posing in this. Let's see. Do we have any final good question? Ian and Isle are foxes. Yeah, Zakanoid, unfortunately, like, these are really fun to do. Number 7 on drive-thru, even a few days later. It got up to 3, but the problem is, I used to be able to get up to number 1 with some stuff, which thank you all for helping, and thank you all for supporting us. The reason that we're not going to get past number 3, especially right now, is that Cyberpunk is so on fire right now, and there's no possible way to compete with the sales of Cyberpunk material. By the way, it's also in like the top 4 or 5. That, what was it, Fabula Nova or Fabula Anima or whatever it was. Basically, there's a game system that's meant specifically for like this. It's kind of an anime TTRPG, but it looks like it's more based in like old school RPGs. Its art aesthetic is very similar to old Final Fantasy Tactics stuff. I bought it. I plan to read it. It looks really cool. I recommend that to anybody. Just like simping for other people's stuff. Go check that out. I may actually reach out to them once I read their system. If I understand it well enough, I may reach out to them and be like, hey, could I make some of my stuff, but for you guys? Would you be interested in that? Heck in, and see what they say. Heck in. Do all or most Daiokai have a Daiokai, or yokai have a Daiokai equivalent? Would there be a Daiokai version of the Diki Shikori out there? So the short answer is there could be. Is not necessarily the way to look at it. Because also Daiokai is a lot like Archfiend and whatnot. Like, it's basically, is it a unique yokai? To an extent. Daiokai is kind of a matter of opinion. It's kind of like how, let's use Inuyasha, which is kind of thematically the basis for how yokai are in Somnus Domina. Like, in terms of just, like, how they act once they exist. Sashomaru is just a demon, but he's also a Daiokai. Like, he is powerful enough that lesser demons would just do what he says. There's no, like, he's not a different species. He's just an incredibly powerful yokai. So you can kind of think of Daiokai the same way, in that some are born in this unique position where there's no other yokai like them. You can't really become like them. They're just insanely powerful. But some of them are just so powerful that others, they just command respect among them. Pretty much, I'd say any, like... How can I put this? With Deki Shikori, because it's based off dragons, you'd have to have a really powerful yokai to be a Dai yokai above it. But, I mean, if it were much more powerful, it would just be... they would all just be Dai yokai. I'd say if, like, an ancient dragon became a Deki Shikori, it would probably create a Dai yokai. The Deki Shikori is kind of meant to be like an adult dragon dies, and its emotional outburst, its pride becomes that. I'd say if like an ancient one or a particular one, like if an ancient black dragon or an ancient, probably chromatic if we're being real, dragon dies, it would probably create a Dai yokai equivalent. If a great worm
Tomorrow the merrier.
did, that would be a whole different thing. That would be a
Sounds
unique.
dangerous.
That'd be a. It needs a unique stat block situation. Yeah.
That's a big bad final boss level thing from the sounds of it.
That becomes Sin from Final Fantasy X. Is what happens there. That said, as much as that's kind of a blunt place to leave off, I think that might be pretty okay. So I have a player who wants to play a tank with one of your classes. What do you recommend as a tank subclass? Way of Tadakatsu Sword Tank. That's what I recommend. I've also wanted someone to get back to me on the long-term playtest of that. But yeah, that said, I think that's where we're going to end off. So if you guys want to join us on Monday for what will probably be our second last, I think, Honokuni game, then I just jinxed it. Please do.
Good job jinxing it, man.
More's coming. And the next big thing I'm working on is the I used to call it the Adventurer's Guide to Retia, but I've changed the name to something more indulgent, which would be Lyra Castilla Chandonnay presents Retia, Land of Industry. I got it.
Daring trials and tribulations of Tarian Daring.
The main part of that title that's going to be on the book is like Retia, Land of Industry. The Lyra Castilla Chandonnay presents is going to be above it.
Yeah,
but that one's going to be written from the viewpoint of Lyra talking about not like all, but like in the way that like some books have notes. Fizbin's has notes and whatnot. I do plan to have her be a point to deliver some more ground level exposition. Yeah. I would have done that with Lucius, but I decided to call it Lucius Guide to Cassadria so far into development that I would have had to restructure the layout of the book to include those, and I just didn't want to. I was too committed to where art was and such. But yeah, so that's the next thing I'm working on. That'll be a long time coming. That's going to include a pretty vast bestiary, a lot of spells. It's going to include, similar to how this book did, it's going to include aspects of the 4 Eidolons of Retia, as well as a bunch of stuff on like their various like lesser aspects as well. Like it'll have the main aspects and then a bunch of smaller things, a lot of the Celestials that follow them. I plan to include a lot of yokai, individuals like guards and captains and whatnot from each of the different capital cities and nations. But it's going to not the big snake. That's a prime god. No, it's going to include Haros, Vestius, Tequin, and Amir. And most of what follows them, including, as this book did, a full descriptions of the divine realms, their many divine domains, the different celestials that follow them, the culture that surrounds them, holidays associated with them. I'm gonna finally... It's never come up in-game. Did you know Somnus Domina has 2 moons? I've never said it in-game because it's never mattered. There's 2 moons.
I think it
He's
came
never
up in
blown them up,
exactly
so
that
they've never been
context
relevant.
once. I believe you're like, by the way, guys, in case you look up, there are 2.
Yeah.
I have been listening off and on for the stream for like as long as it's been going. I did not know there were 2 moons.
There are 2 moons. One is much farther away and is much slower. The closer one is called Lycrothemia. The other one, I don't actually... My brain's... I'm blanking on what the other one's name is, but it's in my document that I keep with all my short notes. But there's 2 moons! Heckin'... I find it really funny that that's never come up in-game. Just no one's ever talked about... Like, when... It doesn't matter. I'm getting distracted by this moon thing. I just find it funny that I've managed to go 127 sessions and never distinctly have any reason to point out that there are 2 moons. But,
Just have an NPC ask, oh, hey, which one's your favorite moon?
one of them flashes every few dozen years. One of them glows for a while. You can read about it and read the guide.
Join us like this time next year when that finally comes out.
Might be more than a year, depending on how it goes.
Ooh.
But yeah, they're at, that's the next big thing. It's already got more creatures and more spells and whatnot than Lushu's guide, and I'm not even close to done. I wanna make the monster manual expanded guys on drive-through sweat a little bit. I think they also did Archons, which I hope my Archons aren't too close to their Archons. Because I bought their 3rd book. I haven't read through it because I'm busy. Pretty sure they did Archons. I also covered all the Archons, and I'm like, I really hope mine are distinct enough that they don't just look like they're the same Archons. Although I think they did a bunch of original ones, and so did I, so that should be okay. I keep digressing. That's it for today. I'm gonna hit the button that stops the recording.
That's it. I'm going. I'm leaving.
Yeah. You're not gonna trick me. You're not gonna trick me again into talking about 2 moons like you did before.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.